This is Healthcare Uprising. We are here to shine a light on the innovators implementing positive change in American healthcare, and the patient experience stories, good and bad, that can help others navigate the sometimes overwhelmingly complex American healthcare system. Welcome to the Uprising. We are not doctors and we don't play one on TV. If you need medical advice, consult with your physician or a healthcare professional. All right. Hello, health heads. Welcome and thank you for checking into this dose of the Healthcare Uprising. I'm your producer in the back, Jeremy Carr, here with your host in the front row, Heather Pierce. So what's on our agenda for today, Heather?
So today we are meeting with Kiran Kumar, who is the CEO of Timeless Biotech. That is a reproductive longevity company that has prototyped the first ever time-to-menopause predicting algorithm. So with this, she's created the MenoTime Predictor. It's an at-home test kit that collects a simple blood sample and it delivers you actionable results through an app on your phone. So Kiran is a seasoned digital marketer and biotechnology engineer from University of California, San Diego, and brings a unique blend of scientific rigor and brand building expertise to the longevity space. Her work sits at the intersection of biohacking, longevity, and machine learning, with a strong focus on translating cutting-edge biotech into consumer-facing solutions, just like the MenoTime Predictor. So
It's pretty wild, actually predicting menopause. And UC San Diego, isn't that the Sea Slugs? I love that mascot. But anywho, without further ado, here's our conversation with Kiran Kumar from Timeless Biotech.
we have Kiran with us here today. Thanks and welcome to the show.
Thanks, Heather. I'm really excited to be here.
Great. So we're going to just jump right into this conversation today and talk about you and your background and kind of what brought you to bring Timeless Biotech to the universe, and just maybe share some of the origin story, maybe the inspiration behind it. We always love to hear the personal stories that always bring these companies to life. So the mic is yours.
So definitely a loaded question. Lots of different things
Oh,
brought
yeah.
me to where I am today. But it started with really my background. I have a background in bioengineering, biotechnology engineering from UC San Diego. And I started to gain more and more of an affinity for the applications of machine learning into healthcare, just because there's a lot of bioinformatics that we cover. I was a part of projects that use machine learning to improve the accuracy of leukemia diagnosis. So that's really where I started to explore that area. And I've always been an ally in women's health and women's issues in general. So just the natural affinity towards women's health from these bioinformatic applications and longevity sciences as I started to do more and more work in the digital marketing space. I worked with Foxo Technologies, which was a longevity company, Timeline Nutrition, and also companies like OneSkin. So that intersection of longevity sciences, bioinformatics, machine learning technologies, and just my interest in women's health led me to this convergence of developing tools that are focused on reproductive longevity, and eventually predicting time to menopause with our tool.
Great. Yeah, you've done quite a bit. You've seen the world a bit.
It just happens organically. I feel like
Yeah.
most people feel the same way, that these things just naturally fall into place.
Yeah. Yeah. And women's health is obviously huge. We're very heavily leaning into women's health here on the Uprising. I'm also equally passionate about women's health, and we are definitely having our moment. And menopause
Absolutely.
and I like to reference the MIDI Health. Menopause is hot. That their CEO always has her great T-shirt on. I want one of those. And so I love that Timeless Biotech is focusing in that menopause space. I'm in perimenopause, so I like to talk about it. So I'm not too too afraid to scream it from the mountaintop. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah. So tell us about Timeless Biotech. So, like, what are you doing? Like, kind of, you obviously give us some great background of kind of that intersection of your professional life and everything to work in this space.
Yeah, she doesn't tell me anything ahead of time, so I honestly don't even know what Timeless Biotech does.
Yeah, we like to keep him in suspense so he asks all
I,
the best
I am
questions.
in the dark until the microphones come on.
You know, that sounds a lot like what women usually expect when they go into menopause is they're in the dark until it's actually happening. So
This
There
is
you go.
true.
I
There you go.
think
That
a
is
lot
very
of
true.
women relate
I
to the
didn't know I
suspense.
was a metaphor for menopause.
You are
That's
now.
wonderful.
Yeah,
You are
so
now.
yeah, that whether that was intentional or not, that's honestly kind of how it works. And that's what we're trying to change. So women shouldn't have to guess. Women should know what's coming in advance. We really consider ourselves a longevity company, like menopause management. And if people are open to it, menopause delay is actually really closely tied to female health span. There's so many chronic illnesses and preventable illnesses that just really skyrocket in risk when you go through that transition. So when you focus on optimizing female health, optimizing female longevity, health span, you can't ignore menopause. You have to focus on that phase. You have to know when it's coming so that you can be ready for management. You can be ready to manage it because currently it takes a lot of time for you to gain access to that diagnosis and prediction. And
Yes, it
you
does.
have to, yeah, and you have to know when it's coming. You have to know when it's coming in order to do that. So that's what led to the birth of Timeless Biotech, which is all about female longevity and creating machine learning tools that can provide objective insights into your health and for like predictive care and like just connection to care, like providing tools that can assist with connecting you to care. And that's why we're the home to the first ever time to menopause predicting algorithm. So we have prototyped and have a patent pending out on MenoTime. So it just requires one blood test and you can get your predicted time to menopause. And we found that women are really excited for this tool and it can help them eventually gain access to adequate care and eventually and live longer, healthier.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
I wish I
And
had it.
so I have been learning a lot about menopause since this podcast started.
Yes.
Um,
He's gonna be the
how does
menopause
this
king.
does this help with perimenopause? Does
Yeah,
it predict that as well and like let you know like when that's going to end and you're going to full on go into full on menopause from there?
Yeah, so that's a very good question, and that's a very clinically meaningful question because the advice for women is to look out for those symptoms of perimenopause, and that's when they should be connecting to treatment. So I that's the next step in our tool is to integrate that time to perimenopause prediction as well. And also, when we give women this predicted time to menopause, we can tell them what symptoms to look out for so that they know when they're getting these symptoms within a few years of their expected time to menopause, what to do, how to bring these results into their provider so that they can advocate for themselves and hopefully get connected to a diagnosis and if they want a prescription sooner.
So I have a question. Even I don't know everything about this stuff, and I'm in the throes. And to clarify for some of our listeners, uh, can we explain really quickly what menopause is, right? Because what
Mhm.
you're doing with Timeless Biotech and your predictor tool is predicting menopause, right? But
Yeah.
perimenopause is very much in play for many, many years before you actually hit menopause. So can you kind of just explain that a little bit so everyone that is not me going through it understands?
Yeah, so menopause is defined as the 1 year anniversary from your final menstrual period. So it's almost like a retroactive diagnosis. You can't determine that the woman has had her final menstrual period until she's gone a certain amount of time without ovulating. So that's technically the definition for menopause. But when people talk about the menopause transition, there's a lot more to do with that. And that's where you have the whole process of perimenopause and the symptoms that can come well before you actually have that final menstrual period. So that's where that can start like 5 to 7 years before menopause. So if you're saying that the average age of menopause is age 44 to 54, you're talking about perimenopause being able to start as early as your late 30s. And that's when many women start to experience hot flashes, night sweats, irregular periods. Some women get tinnitus, some women get bleeding gums, like some women just have a complete loss of libido. So there's a lot of different symptoms that are associated with this phase, because if you see what your hormones look like during perimenopause, it's it's a frightening sight. It's like really, really, really intense fluctuations, and a woman feels it. Like she feels it in her mood and those experiences as well. So typically she goes into her doctor and with these symptoms, and that's when hopefully in an ideal world she'd get diagnosed or given access to treatment to help manage her symptoms and the associated health risks.
Yeah, and definitely, I mean, I think, and now that we've been covering, menopause and perimenopause on the show here, we've had a few episodes so far on it, and we are not going to stop talking about it. Yeah, we're going to do a menopause roundtable too, so that'll be really cool. To bring a bunch of women together. I don't know how Jeremy's going to fare during that, but
Always an adventure around there.
we'll be nice. But the diagnosis, right, is we're usually and often living with it, to your point, for years, right? Before
Mhm.
someone even says, "Oh yeah, you're 100% going through perimenopause and here's some HRT and progesterone or
Mhm.
whatever, things that you need to treat your symptoms." So so where Timeless Biotech comes in, and it's called your predictor tool. Do you call it the predictor, or is there another
We
special
call
name
it the
for it?
MenoTime Predictor. So
MenoTime.
MenoTime, very
That's right.
simple.
Okay. So that is so somebody like me, actually, I would be perfect for something like that because I haven't technically hit menopause yet, right? So I
Mhm.
need to get on the wait list.
Yes, you definitely should get on the wait list. And that's really why we designed this as a predictor, because there are tools like there are menopause diagnostics that exist, but they're not really clinically meaningful because you've
Mhm,
already gone through the whole roller coaster of perimenopause
mhm,
and stopped menstruating by the time you can be diagnosed for menopause. And then there are perimenopause diagnostics that are also like not considered very scientific if they're in blood. Urine tests, like they can still predict, but you're not really capturing anything meaningful with blood tests that diagnose perimenopause because your hormones really fluctuate so much. So it's difficult to test around this phase, which is why we built something that's like very proactive, because
mhm.
that's the only clinically meaningful way to approach menopause, and diagnostics and care surrounding it.
Okay, so let's just use me as an example. Well, I'm guessing it's hard to know when an opportune time is, but you certainly need to be going through perimenopause for this to really be something to use. Is that a
So
kind
you
of
can use it
correct statement?
before perimenopause. You can
Even
use it
before.
up to 15 years before.
Oh,
So yes, so you can use it well before.
wow.
And if you're in perimenopause, you probably have already started to interact with lots of these materials and that education surrounding it, of like what symptoms to look out for, like how to connect to treatment and many things like that. But lots of times when women already start symptoms, you probably know like the learning is happening at the same time as when they should be treating. So that's
Hmm.
why we want to get women to educated about these things sooner.
So it really is like you want to get women on this when they're 30 so that they can see when perimenopause is actually going to kick in for them
Yeah,
and
I'm in my
plan
early
accordingly.
20s. I'm waiting for us to extend that prediction range.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, 15 years, it's early 20s. You're not worrying about it yet. But once you hit 30, you can jump in on that, right?
Yeah, that's wild. I'm actually really surprised. So how does it work exactly? Like
Yeah.
how does the yeah, just tell us it everything.
Yeah. Right. So it's like it's blood, standard blood biomarkers, FSH. If you are familiar with these hormones, then that's great. If you're not, you don't have to be. FSH, AMH, estradiol, These are typically very indicative of ovarian reserve, so how many eggs we have left in us. And then you'll obviously have some other like that other variables that are indicative of lifestyle, so things like cholesterol, and other biomarkers. We take into account race and all that kind of stuff. So after you give us the results for that one blood test, then we're able to return your time to menopause prediction, as well as a suite of recommendations that are personalized to your hormone health. So that's basically the gist of how it works, so that women can not only just receive that prediction so that they can have clarity on what to expect, when to expect it, but that they can also like make certain lifestyle changes in advance that could potentially help them if they want to delay that transition, if that's of interest to them.
And how do you delay menopause?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is kind of like a chicken and the egg situation. And the reason I say this is because we have correlative research. So there is research in the area that suggests that certain lifestyle practices and certain things are related to a delayed menopause, like a later menopause onset. However, our tool is new and has never existed before, so no one has been able to determine observationally if the same person could delay their time to menopause if they make these lifestyle changes. So because our tool hasn't existed yet, we don't have observational data on that, but we can start collecting that. So that would be a huge change, like a huge milestone for reproductive longevity. And I would consider women's longevity is if we were able to identify that we could delay this transition that's associated with health span.
Yeah, that I never even considered that could be a possibility. And you said that menopause can lead to a lot of different health issues, diseases, and whatnot. Are you
Yes.
able, is this program you have able to predict specifically which of those problems people might see based on their own physiology?
Right. So those are the next steps. And that's something that's high in our priority list. Like there are two main things. One is connecting people to treatment that is correct for them if they're interested in it. And the second is predicting what are you at risk for? Because the question of to treat, to medicate or not to medicate is not a non-nuanced question. It's very complicated and it requires risk, like deep risk assessment for different conditions. So that's why we want to be able to explore, like, does this woman have a significant risk of heart disease? Because the risk of heart disease doubles over the menopause transition, especially if it's not adequately managed. So if this woman has that increased risk, does that outweigh some of the risks that are associated with hormone therapy? And that's a completely separate conversation. Like I said, very nuanced conversation on hormone therapy. But yes, that risk assessment and deciding what would be the best intervention is definitely in our to-do list.
So this stuff's really getting built in real time right now. So,
Yes, engineering as we speak.
and it's kind of like a couple of other episodes we did. The more people who sign up for this, the sooner the better, the quicker it will be able to figure out
Hmm.
all these things, and it will work better for everybody if more people get involved,
Yeah.
right?
That data set, right? You've got to have a big, so you can start looking at the trends, right? And different things that are happening or looking for, like you were saying, like these indicators, right? That
Yeah,
in these biomarkers that might say, oh, that person might be more susceptible to, like what did you say? I don't know, the heart disease or whatever,
heart disease.
what have
Yeah.
you. Well, and as you were talking to, and you mentioned obviously, hormones and being on hormones, right? HRT and progesterone, right? That's kind of like a normal combo of meds for women. But in to speak to kind of the differences between different women taking the same thing, right? For example, I might a patch might work with me, but another form of hormone, like maybe it's the cream, right? Or
Mhm.
however it is, right? Like you can get hormones in different. Jeremy, did you know that you can get hormones in different ways?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You can
And
rub it right on your skin.
you,
Yeah, it's wild.
all the different
Yeah.
ways you can get it, and then the different dosages. It's like how many
Yes.
milligrams of progesterone versus this. And like I talked to my all my friends because there's a whole bunch of us that are in it, and everyone's different, right? We're all doing something different. So,
And there, it's good that there are so many options, but that also is why, like, and I'm sure you agree with this too, I don't like the idea of being like pro HRT or anti HRT. Like,
mhm,
that's one of the first questions I get. They're like, you know the research, are you pro HRT or anti HRT? And I'm like, I would never advise someone who wouldn't benefit from it to take it, right?
mhm,
It's a very nuanced question. And even though I do think that there's a lot more fear surrounding hormones than there should be, and a lot of misinformation surrounding it, that, like, most of us have concluded, even the people who are considered anti-HRT typically would never say that there's no situation where a woman should take it. So I think one thing to explore more thoroughly is every individual case scenario and what are the subjective factors that are leading to doctors feeling uncomfortable prescribing it, because that's where you have an overwhelming amount of women who want treatment but don't get access to it because doctors are just not comfortable giving it to them. Like, you tell them you have a risk of blood clots and they won't even have like, many times, a conversation with you about how oral estrogen is known to increase blood clots, but vaginal estrogen and transdermal estrogen are actually considered safe for women with that
mm,
risk. Doesn't mean you can still do what you're comfortable with, but that conversation, that interaction needs to happen. And that's why we want to, like, create some of these tools to help better inform those decisions surrounding treatment.
yeah.
Is that just old school protocol that they don't want to have that conversation, or what causes them to not go into that?
Honestly, it's very, the research is very, very complicated. It's very, very nuanced. New stuff is coming out all the time. There's so many disagreements in the research that you really have to, like, look at, like, you really have to be doing this as, like, a full-time job to monitor what the best like take is, like, what's the best protocol. And then you also have to know the person's history so well. So it's one thing to know what the evidence-based research says, and it's another thing to also practice it when you have, like, a license at risk, or like your own job, your job at risk. So we want to make sure that doctors don't have to eyeball these things and they
Sure,
can actually
sure.
rely on some tools.
I got to ask a question too. This has come up, machine learning or ML, as Jeremy and I have learned that acronym. And you've mentioned that that's part of the work that you're doing with Timeless Biotech and the your predictor tool. Can you talk a little bit about what the role machine learning plays in this? Because it's like, for me, it's
Mhm.
like the new, you're kind of like in the space of like AI, right?
Yeah.
This kind of newer term and how it's really influencing a lot of these really cool new like apps and platforms and products and things that are coming out in the healthcare space.
Yeah, I'm a full-on machine learning geek, so feel free to ask those questions. I really, really love, and I'm not alone in this, the specific application of machine learning in women's health, because it's actually able to catch us where we are, and where we are is we know nothing. So the great thing about machine learning is, if you have the data set required, the large enough data set required to run a machine learning model on it, is it tells you what's important. So it's something called a weights analysis. If I wanted to run, like, create this model without machine learning, I'd have to tell the system what variables matter more. I'd have to say, you want to use this marker, you want to use this marker, and you want to use this marker. This is how important each of those markers are. I'd have to tell the system that. With a machine learning model, it takes in the data and it tells me, it gives me something called a weights analysis and tells me, this biomarker is more predictive, this biomarker is more predictive, and the combination of these biomarkers, like, whatever it does, it gives us that information, which goes a long way in women's health when we don't have a lot of that preliminary understanding of what biomarkers are more predictive, especially when working in hormones where things, like, fluctuate a lot from individual to individual. So that's the reason that we use machine learning for this specific tool.
Okay.
So this might be a little too specific. I'm a numbers guy. How many people would you say it would take, or how many women would it take to sign up for Timeless Biotech's platform here to actually get the data set you're looking for to figure all this stuff out? Are we talking thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people? How many people over how long of a time do you think it would? Just, I mean, I don't.
Yeah.
What give me a guesstimate
Yeah.
in your experience. How many
Uh-huh.
people and for how long do you think it'll take for this to be like we know what we need to know about this for everybody?
Yeah, so we have prototyped our model already using the a data set available. So we have the tens of thousands of data points that we needed to
Okay.
create this data set.
Oh.
So yeah, we are there. And
So you're
now
already
we
there.
can start, yeah, we can start like giving women these insights about their health using this tool. And it's not just us. There's so many companies, and I know that like I'm obviously a big fan of like menopause and predicting menopause, but so many companies in the women's health space that are applying this hypothesis of using like these like very advanced, sophisticated machine learning and other tools in women's health. Like I you can see it in like Mira Health, like they
Mhm.
just came out with their postpartum predictor using blood, which is like a phenomenal advancement. Like you have companies like Hera that are focusing on like endometriosis diagnosis with blood. So it's just a lot of people who are focusing on machine learning, women's health at that intersection, and it's
Mhm.
really exciting. I'm really excited as a
Mhm.
woman.
I am too.
We had Hera on. We had
Oh, hair fertility. That's a little bit
oh,
different.
that's a different
Yeah.
Hera.
Yep.
That's right.
She's naming another one.
We did just do Endo 45 for the endometriosis stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's funny when I'm out on LinkedIn now because I'm part of this like femtech universe. I've been adopted in and I see all of you talking to each other and I think it's so cool that we've had so many of you on our show and I'm like, I'll be your platform. Let's talk about all these things because it's important, right? Like it's important to me. I'm 48 years old and I've I've been, going through all of the, the journeys here as a woman, having had two children and had some infertility issues, and you name it, right? Like there's not one woman that you can talk to who can say that they haven't experienced something unusual or weird or not normal. You know what I mean? So it's like
Yeah.
we need this so
It's like so
badly.
cathartic. It's so cathartic to have these conversations as well. Like just as a woman, that's what when I talk to people who are not like working in the women's health space or the femtech space, they really feel alone and isolated, and they're not even aware that they're experiencing that until I hear it like coming out through their language, just like this overwhelming feeling. And that's also something you start to notice more when you get on like these women's health like social
Hmm.
media platforms. Like, I don't know if you're on DM. If you're not, you should check it out.
I
Um,
should.
yeah, DIEM. I kind of think of it like the female and LGBTQ version of Reddit. But
Oh.
they're also like a social search engine. And I just see like throughout the day, I get notifications of like questions women are asking, and lots of them are women's health based. Some of them are just really funny. And I just love these like platforms where women can just talk about what they're building, what they're thinking. It's really funny and also really important.
Yeah, I'm glad that we have a much bigger voice. And in this again, this comes up on our show all the time with various, people that we meet. COVID, as crappy as COVID was, there were some really, really great things that have come out of COVID. And it's like
Mhm.
this kind of, not just telehealth, right? Like that was kind of like the big thing at first is, oh, telehealth has now
Mhm.
become much more accessible and widely available. But it was all this technology and it's AI, and everyone was so freaked out about AI at first, like, oh my God, we're all going to be run by robots and whatever. And it's like, no, it's machine learning, right? It's the AI that is allowing people like you to create tools like this that are going to help us actually get way more in control of our healthcare and this whole idea of like preventive care, right? And
Mhm.
value-based, like I worked in value-based care when it like first became a thing back in like 2010-ish. And there's been this big push to like go about healthcare instead of the reactive way that we've been doing it for decades,
Mhm.
instead being the proactive, like you've said a couple of times. And like these are the tools that are going to help us do that. But we needed AI, those that scary AI, to help us get there. So it's such an exciting time to be a part of this industry and to like literally see things changing like right in front of our eyes.
You see it like right in front of your eyes, and you
Mhm.
brought, like, you called it out, like telehealth was so big when, like, it boomed like around the COVID times, and now we're starting to see more like the function healths of the world,
Mhm.
so like those testing companies, and now we're seeing testing and testing. And when it comes to like women's health, it's like, what did these tests mean? Right? So that's like
Mhm.
that next step is putting those meaningful tests, so like meaningful information from these tests into the hands of those telehealths and like those even like standard care providers. And then you've connected this like chain, right? So that women, it's getting delivered to women. You have your platform, but you're also getting like these very data driven, objective insights directly
Mhm.
delivered to them through these platforms. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah. It's an exciting time to be alive.
Yeah, absolutely.
AI is really cool when you use it, right?
Yeah,
If you're making new medicines and new treatments instead of terminators, it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah,
exactly.
it's great. Like AI has great applications in these areas. And I think that another thing that COVID did, and you probably have noticed this as well, is like it really like expanded how many people start to access like social media. And
Hmm.
it's a good thing and a bad thing. Like I've seen like people get really addicted to TikTok and like reels, but like my mom started going like on Instagram and getting access to like lots of these medical influencers and like
Hmm.
learning a lot about the different issues. So that's like something that's really important. And that's like one of our main things that we want to do. Like we've developed a reproductive health document that's just focused on what questions you should be directing your provider. And it's like talking about like all of these different things like pregnancy risks and complications, miscarriage care, contraceptive care, like perimenopause. So like reproductive aged women can like use that document to kind of like guide them and give them that basic level of information that they need, and they can download it so that it's not online, it's not anything that can like dynamically change. So that's like something that we're trying to take advantage of.
Got it. One of the things I wanted to touch on too with you is because I was looking at your website, um, and I was actually looking at your blog, and I saw that you cover PCOS a little bit more extensively than some other topics, obviously beyond menopause. And can you talk about maybe like does this menopause predictor, does it play into PCOS? Is there some correlation here? So maybe you can give us a little context around that.
For the listener out there, polycystic ovarian syndrome.
Oh, Jeremy, I'm so proud of you.
You know where I
Yeah.
learned that? I learned that right here.
Ah,
I'm
see?
so glad to hear that. Yeah,
You
I
know,
can give a
Our
little bit more.
goal
I
Yeah.
forget what episode it was, but I learned that on this podcast.
to educate and create awareness. Even Jeremy is being educated. This is the greatest thing ever. Look at you.
I'm gonna know more about menopause than any man in America.
You really will.
Yeah, I think you might
I really am.
you might know more than some women too,
I might.
unfortunately.
You might.
Might.
Yeah. Yeah, but PCOS, technically, yes, polycystic ovarian syndrome, but many people who just have like signs of high levels of androgens, so high levels of testosterone. So let's say you have like a lot of facial hair, you get like a lot of acne, or you have even women who have like some levels of insulin resistance. Like lots of these things are that might result in a woman being told that she has PCOS. So it's a syndrome. It's a collection of symptoms that will may lead to your doctor saying you have PCOS. So the reason we have a lot of content on PCOS on our website is because we're treating women, or we're not treating directly, but we're predicting time to menopause for women. Some of our women have PCOS, some of our women don't have PCOS. Some of the women take contraception, some of them don't. These are all intersections. They don't function in isolation. A woman doesn't have PCOS and then a different woman goes into menopause. That woman who lived with PCOS is that same woman who goes through perimenopause and menopause. What does perimenopause look like for a woman going through PCOS? These are the type of conversations we need to start having. This is like one of our core missions at Timeless is to elevate that standard of what a general amount of women's health information looks like. So talking about if you have PCOS, and you have endometriosis and you take our test, what are some specific interventions you can do that are unique to your specific conditions in your scenario? So you probably came across the blog on PCOS and metformin versus GLP-1s. So that the whole point of that conversation was to address that, like, many women with PCOS have insulin resistance. These are tools that are typically given to women with insulin resistance. If you don't have insulin resistance and you have PCOS, are you still someone who's a candidate for something like metformin or GLP-1s? What are the experiences that people have? Which one, what might be better for you? And then, of course, we want to also talk about women who are perimenopausal with PCOS and whether taking something like a GLP-1 would increase her risk of frailty, menopausal frailty. So
Mm.
having these like very nuanced conversations that specifically address women's issues, not just a woman with PCOS and a woman with menopause, a woman with PCOS who is experiencing menopause, what should she do for her health?
Hmm. Gotcha. Okay, thank you for explaining that.
No.
I kept seeing it and I thought, gosh, I should probably just bring it up. So
Yeah,
why
I
not?
love talking about it.
Great. Jeremy, do you have a question?
No, no,
Oh,
no. I was just agreeing. That was a good clarification.
I'm like, did you have another acronym that you're going to spell out for us?
Drop one on me, see what happens.
I might do that actually. It's gonna
We
be
should
the
quiz him at the end
pop quiz.
Right.
of
Yep,
the
yep.
episode.
We'll do
Yeah.
that at the round table. They can quiz me at the end of the round table.
That's crazy. Yeah, we'll do it. Jeremy, don't tempt me.
I'm going to have some questions for that round table, let me
Yeah,
tell you.
you are. So, going back to kind of the purpose of this predictor, right? Like you start, you can predict menopause. You can start seeing these biomarkers. You could start seeing, potentially, things that, somebody might have potential to have a certain condition, right? Like down the road, right? Is that kind of how that works? So that you can kind of almost have a roadmap, right? Like if you get the results back and you had mentioned, some other kind of supports and things like that, based on what your results are to help kind of,
Mhm,
guide you, through whatever your path looks like. In
mhm.
terms of like what does somebody do with that, right? Like if
Yeah.
I get on the wait list, sure, I get it. Okay, then what? Are you working with providers? Like how are doctors
Mhm.
kind of ingrained into what this kind of like, ecosystem is going to look like for Timeless?
Yeah. So we're going to be partnering with, we currently have Dr. Sangeeta Bhatti, who's on our advisory board. She's an OBGYN and she's worked with so many women who are premenopausal, perimenopausal, and postmenopausal, and specifically helped them with managing their hormones and balancing that personalized to them. So working with people like that who have worked with thousands of different women and helped to optimize their specific health, like their hormone health, so that they go through these transitions more smoothly and they prevent preventable illnesses quite clearly. So we're going to be partnering with more practitioners like that, more coaches in that area, so that when women receive this prediction, it's not like a countdown, but instead like you have this many years to, get ahead of the game and give them like personalized recommendations based on their data of how they can prepare for this transition. And if they're interested in it, do certain things that could potentially delay that transition.
Hmm.
And that's where like lots of that literature comes in and lots of the experiences of these practitioners and their ability to help with certain cases like call it like a POI. That's a new one for you, Jeremy, which is premature ovarian insufficiency. So women heading into an earlier menopause, like how do you cope with a situation like that? How do you cope with women who have hypothyroidism and are then heading
Hmm.
into the transition? So we'll definitely have like a comprehensive way women can prepare. That's knowing when you're going to start menopause is just the start.
Yeah.
Now you need to actually know what to do with the information.
It does sound like a much better way to go into it, knowing that it's coming. I'm glad you clarified that too, because I really did have this image in my head of this big booming voice, T minus 875 days to menopause.
Yeah,
You
not
know
like
what I
that. Not
mean?
like that.
Like, here it comes, it's coming. Are you ready?
No.
So, but this actually can take that
Yeah.
feeling out of it. Like it might feel like that if you
Yeah.
don't know it's coming, and all of a sudden it hits.
Yeah.
If you know for years ahead of time, and you're making it so that it's not going to hit as hard, and you can even put it off and things. I mean, that just sounds like, I mean,
Yeah.
taking control of your own life in a way, really, right?
Exactly. Yes, taking your power back.
Yeah.
Well, and I have to imagine too, I'm always, I've worked in the healthcare industry for a long time, and I was on the, insurance carrier side, and so much of big bad big bad insurance carriers. Um, you know, obviously cost, right? Like that's what they're constantly looking
Mhm.
at. They've got like, hundreds and hundreds of, what do you call it? Not adjusters, actuaries, that are constantly looking
Mhm.
at this like, claims data and how do we lower costs and, all the things. It's
Uh-huh.
tools like these, right, that help us get ahead of these problems before they happen. That's like the whole concept of value-based care, right? And so I have to imagine too that, insurance companies are going to appreciate tools like this, right? Because instead of me having, three like acute health issues, right, that are very costly, might turn into something chronic by having this information ahead of time. Like we can take all of the initiative to
Mhm.
stop them from happening or at least minimizing that. And in the end, that's less cost on, on the, on the healthcare kind of industry as a whole, which then
Mhm.
has a trickle down effect, right? There's a reason
Yeah.
that we pay so high for premiums. It's because all of the other costs are so high and people go to the ER instead of their PCP and all the things that I complain about every time I'm on this show. So,
I'm
No,
not a big fan of the
you've
phrase
nailed
trickle down, but I agree.
yeah.
Yeah, I like you've nailed it. Like these things add value and they reduce cost, especially in the long term. Even if you don't want to be that person who's like doing all your recommendations, like showing up at the gym, even if you don't do those things, which we obviously recommend,
Mhm.
even just knowing what should be common knowledge for our women, like just that knowledge saves you those like six general practitioner visits where you're going back and forth trying to get a
Mhm.
diagnosis, or like those 4 to 5 different providers you have to go to, eventually like an out of network provider to even get access to someone who's going to like give you HRT if you want it. So like even those months and years that you save just because you know what's happening in advance, like you're either early or you're late, right? There's no
Mhm.
such thing as on time. So just from having that knowledge of when it's going to come so that you can, actually gain access to treatment on time, even that goes a long way. So
Yeah.
yes, this is definitely something that insurance providers would see value in. This is definitely something
Yeah.
that people see value in, practitioners see value in. And one of the why we're trying to go through those channels as well.
Yeah, it's good for everybody.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
actually, that was one of the other things I wanted to cover too. So there's a wait list to get the
Yes.
predictor. So how is this going to work in terms of distribution? Can just kind of the, any lady off the street, be able to go on the website and say, hey, I want to order that. And then, you talk with your doctor about it. Will it be available through providers? I know that's always a great channel, right? For like
Mhm.
OBGYNs to be like, hey, you should, you just had a baby. You should have this because you're going to eventually be in menopause.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So yes and yes. So the first easiest way, if you're just like sitting and you want to access the tool, will be the at-home test kit. So it'll get shipped directly to you, finger prick, blood test. You send it back in, and we give you all of that information. Like we tell you your predicted time to menopause. We give you that like those personalized insights. So you can go to our website, and that's where you sign up for the wait list to gain access to the tool that way. What we would also be able to do for women who, let's say you don't live in the US and you have insurance, or you have free healthcare and you already have access to your blood levels, you can also just input those into our system. We'll have a system where you can input those online, and then you'll be able to get a prediction there as well. So that's how you can interface as a consumer. And then, of course, we want to go through clinics, we want to go through like companies that have at-home test kits. So there's a lot of different ways to get it out there. Also, companies that just want to test their products. So like if you the same way you have biological age tests that tell you that you're able to that this supplement or this nutraceutical is able to delay or slow your biological aging or reverse biological age for you, companies that want to test that and see if they're able to reduce their menopause timing is also something that can be integrated because that's a more tailored approach to women and women's
Hmm.
health is to see if this is actually able to delay your time to menopause.
Got it.
Well,
So obviously patent pending, right? So which is why it's not available yet. But
patent's
Yes.
already in the books if you're selling stuff.
yeah. So what is the timeline in terms of releasing this to the public? Do you have kind of an ETA on that?
Yes, we want to get out within the next few months. So we
Oh,
do want
soon.
to be available soon. Yes, but signing up for our wait list helps you get first access. So
Oh,
definitely
you
make
know
sure to
I'm
do
doing
that.
it. Like, no doubt. And then I will just, sing your praises out here.
Thank you. Thank you so
Oh,
much, Heather.
so you're basically still in beta stage. You're not like
So we
publicly available yet.
no, so we're not publicly available yet, but we are building like a strong resource and communities around like just lots of great information in women's health and perimenopause. So you can definitely check out some of the communities that we have and some of the resources like our blogs and
Mhm.
like podcasts like these.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. You got some good content out there already.
it's always good to get in early, get on that wait list.
Well,
Yeah, get in.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I said just get in the wait list. That's it.
Yeah. Oh, I like legitimately am. I'm like, bye. Just kidding.
Hold on, I'm gonna go for it.
Excuse me, I need to go take care of that right now.
Is it just all through the website? It's just all
Yes,
through the website. Is there an app forthcoming, or is it just going to be the website
Thank you for asking that.
forthcoming.
That was my
forthcoming?
second question. So there will be an app that will
There will be
accompany,
an app.
and what will that app provide to somebody who would be using it?
So there are options like you'll get obviously when you order that blood test and you get your results, it'll tell you your predicted time to menopause. It'll give you all of these other personalized informations, but it'll also have a way for you to interface with it, especially if you want to keep reordering the test kit to see if you're able to delay or track your
Hmm.
menopause onset. That's like you'll be able to see like that tracking.
Oh,
And yeah, and we also want to set up a women's health GPT so it will like put together your information that that you've given us about like your hormones and everything and be able to answer your questions.
oh, that is so cool.
Wow.
I love that. I love that. And then you create community around that, right? Like, I mean, I think
Yeah,
you were talking about like on DM.
yeah,
But
DM. Great platform.
yeah, I have to check that out. I can't believe I'm not out there yet.
Carpe the diem.
Carpe. Hey, Jeremy's got all the one-liners here. I don't get to have any fun. I'm mysterious over here. But you do, I mean, to create that community, right? Because like women love to talk about this. I mean, I can even tell you, obviously being in the throes, me and my friends are talking about, everything. So, Siri and Alexa are always listening to us. So now they know all my deepest, darkest secrets. And so then they feed me, through like the algorithm on Facebook. And I'm like, I wasn't even searching that. And why all of a sudden is this like ad in my face? I'm like, they're literally listening to me, and then you've got all the influencers, like you said, and like all of these new products that are coming out. And women crave the community that comes with that. So like
Yeah,
we love talking
there's
about it.
there's so many studies on this. And one of my favorite ones that I came across was that women who have a lot of female friends or like a strong female community, when something bad happens to them, instead of cortisol, what gets released more is oxytocin, which
Oh,
means that yeah, so when you have female friendships and a female community, when when something bad happens to you, your brain literally goes text the group chat. It literally sees it as an
Wow.
opportunity to bond.
mm-hmm.
And it's honestly like with all of the things that women have to go through in their lives, it's only fair that we get this coping mechanism of being able to like bond and make all of these like
Yeah.
jokes and community around it. So it
Yeah.
goes a long way for women. It
Yeah.
does.
It does. Well, I'm excited about what you're doing. This is super cool, and I can't wait to tell all my girlfriends about it because this is what we need, right? Like this is the life that we're living right now. So, you talked a little bit earlier on in the show as we kind of like wrap things up here a little bit. You've got some long range plans. So
Mhm.
kind of like what's next? Obviously, the actual predictor itself needs to get out there in the market, hopefully here in the next few months. Um, but then kind of like what happens after that, right? Like you start collecting the data, but you've got some big plans I'm sure coming.
A lot of big plans. Not all of them can be shared
Uh-huh.
because we're still tinkering.
Right.
But definitely things. What I can promise is things I can assist with that connection to treatment. So how do we remove lots of the subjectivity there,
Hmm.
so that we can actually facilitate a connection? Because treatment is known to reduce all-cause mortality and promote health span. So how can we make sure women are gaining access to that? That's what I'll say. Um,
Okay. Well, leave us
for
in
now.
suspense. I'm excited for you. I mean, just having this is like it's crazy, right? I mean, Jeremy and I are so lucky. We get to meet, first of all, like some of the smartest, most brilliant people and bringing some of the coolest things onto the market in the healthcare space. And I'm like blown away. Like,
We're surfing the front wave of the, women's health innovation on this podcast
yeah,
recently. It's pretty mind-blowing stuff that's coming out, man.
yeah.
It's
So,
I
amazing.
I
And like, yeah.
I
Yeah,
do
when I
have
see
a
my
different
newsletter.
view of AI now since we started this podcast, honestly. Seeing all the wonderful things that are being done with it in the healthcare realm
mhm.
gives me a much more positive view than, when you look at the billionaire oligarchs trying to overtake the internet with their AIs and track all our data and put ads on your phone for stuff you never even searched and things like that. Like
Yeah.
Mm.
when you think of that side, it's like
Yeah.
this is dark, but then there's this other side where it's like, oh, we can actually do good things with this.
Like timeless biotech.
They're tools, right? Tools can be
It's a
used on
tool.
for either
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. So definitely great tools and lots of amazing stuff happening in the space. Like I see it in my newsletters and I'm like, oh, this is the good news I needed.
Yeah. Yeah, there's lots of good happening. There's a lot of good happening out there in the world, and I'm glad to have you here on the show today to tell us about your little corner of it, and bringing a lot of us mid to late 40s, early 50s women a little bit of a little bit more hope. So with that, let us know where we can find you online. Are you on social media? Like where we can follow you, and where to sign up for that wait list.
Yes, so Timeless is on so timelessbiotech.com. Really easy. That's where you get onto our wait list. If you have any questions or anything like want to connect with us, then we're also on socials. So we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, same handle, Timeless Biotech. We're setting up Facebook groups and WhatsApp groups as well. So that'll all be accessible through our website.
Wonderful.
You'll
Yeah.
have to get in their group.
Yeah, I have to say, I don't love Facebook anymore, but one of the most redeeming qualities about Facebook are the groups
Yeah.
because of the
The
community
groups.
that it
Yes.
creates. 100% my favorite thing about Facebook. So,
Yeah.
I'll definitely seek it out. We'll share all of this in the show notes. We'll put it in the social in our social media when we share this interview. So, thanks for sharing all that information. This has been yet again another enlightening conversation. Gives me a little glimmer of hope, especially when the news kind of looks like garbage half the time. This is like the positivity that I need in my life. And so, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing with us and our listeners um, the really cool, innovative stuff that you're bringing to the menopause and women's healthcare space.
Yeah, thanks so much, Heather. And thank you, Jeremy, for being such a like having such great questions and being such a good listener.
Oh yeah, thank you. That's why she asked me here, honestly, is because I can do that. I've been a taxi driver for 15 years. I'm a professional conversationalist at this point, is what that job teaches you. I literally get paid to talk to strangers all day.
And you're good at
I've
it.
gotten
Yeah.
good over the years. I'm well trained.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And there you go, our conversation with Kiran Kumar from Timeless Biotech. Very informative stuff, very cool stuff. I feel like every woman in her 20s should be listening to this podcast at this point.
I
Be-
concur.
and before I set you loose here, Heather, I do want to make a correction from the opening of this episode. UC San Diego's mascot is King Triton. They are called the Tritons. It was UC Santa Cruz is the Sea Slugs. Santa Cruz, not San Diego. You can see why I got confused, but I just
Easy
wanted to correct
mistake.
that. But so, what are our main takeaways from today's conversation then, Heather?
More importantly, let's talk about what we learned today. Um, I'm mind blown. A tool that predicts menopause, like sign me up.
I know, like you never even would have like thought of that as a possibility, right?
No,
Like, it
like
never would have crossed my mind that someone could even do that.
it up to 15 years in advance of it actually happening. I mean,
15
that's
years.
a long time and 15 years to prepare.
And then they give you methods of postponing it.
Right. Delaying menopause, like I I know there's like surgery, right? Like when getting like hysterectomies and things like that, that's where it like brings it on. But
Right.
to delay it,
Yeah, to
like
actually push it off.
I'm still kind of wrap my head around that one.
Why?
But what's cool though, so this tool, the Meno predictor or MenoTime Predictor, um, it's not just like, oh, hey, and you have here's the blood test, right? And um your menopause is going to happen in, you know,
T minus
two
874 days.
exactly. It not only does it give you that, but it also gives you the actionable insights, right? So you have like the app and it tells you all of these things. And so you can actually learn from it. You can make changes to your health, right? Like to your body itself, like whether it be through nutrition or physical activity or certain things, right? That will like
Yeah.
help you either maybe at least go through it a little bit easier, more prepared. I don't know. Nothing's easy with perimenopause, but
I,
yeah.
I feel like if you know it's coming and you are able to properly prepare, makes anything better. Like it's not going to make it go away, but yeah, total lessening of the symptoms, and it comes on slower and the symptoms are lesser, and
Yeah.
just make your whole time of it easier.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's something women got to go through, but you can have more control over it than just sitting there letting it happen to you.
Yeah, and I like the idea of having not just knowing like when it's going to happen, but like knowing how I can do things for myself, right? Or I mean, it's
Yeah.
just it's right.
The
It's
empowerment of it.
empowerment.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It's
Like actually
education.
understanding what's happening to you
Yeah.
and what you can do about it.
Right.
It puts you in such a better position than just, oh my God, what's happening to me? You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Well, and not to mention too, the I've got the stat here in front of me, that actually was shared by Timeless Biotech on their LinkedIn page. A new UK-based study finds that 1 out of 10 women needs 6 to 10 general practitioner appointments to receive a menopause diagnosis. Which crazy, right? Like
What?
I know, right? So then
I
you
mean,
have,
it's a pretty straightforward thing. Why
yeah,
would you have to see so many doctors
right.
for them to be like, oh yeah, you're going into menopause? Like,
And
what?
so then having a
No.
tool that says, "Hey, like this is coming," like it's almost validation, right?
Yeah.
Like no, and sometimes it won't be, right? Sometimes it won't be symptoms of menopause or perimenopause, but even still, it's good to have that.
Yeah.
Knowledge is power.
Absolutely.
So anyway, she's definitely bringing it. So
Yeah.
super,
Yeah.
super
Pretty
exciting
amazing
stuff.
stuff. Something else that caught my brain in there. I found it very interesting what she said about women responding to like, traumatic or violent events or whatever by releasing what was it, oxytocin
Oxytocin.
instead of the cortisol.
Hmm.
And instead of responding with like anger or rage, things like that, they actually see it as a bonding opportunity with their community,
Yeah,
which to me just speaks to why we should start putting women in charge of things. Because when bad things happen, women,
we
you know,
band together.
yeah, like men get mad and women get together.
Right,
Like guys want to go out and punish somebody for it, where women are like, hey, let's get together and talk about this.
right.
Best reason I've ever heard to start electing women to high office.
Let's do it.
I mean, I think I said in episode one that I've been, advocating for the rise of the matriarchy for a long time now. So
I'm here for it. I want to be part of it.
that's probably what part of the reason why you put me on this podcast.
I mean,
It's why I'm right for the job, I guess.
You were perfect.
But yeah, anything else before we wrap it up?
No, I think that's it. I'm getting on the wait list.
There you go. Well,
I want to know how much longer of this torture I have
yeah,
to go through.
I know it's like every time we do an episode, you have to sign up for something.
I know. I'm like, I'm gonna be broke.
You're gonna have so many subscriptions, you're not gonna know what's going on.
I know.
But if you liked what you heard in this episode, please take a minute to hit all those happy little fun buttons, whatever platform you're on, the likes and subscribes, maybe share it with a friend, hit the auto download so you never miss a beat, things like that. We are on all the audio platforms. We are on YouTube. We have a Patreon for as little as $1 a month. So we're accessible all over the place. But where else do they find us, Heather?
You can visit us online on healthcareuprising.com. And of course, all of the social media platforms like Blue Sky, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. So, yeah, we're everywhere. And just follow us out there. We'll drop our episodes and post when they're coming on their drop date, and share lots of the really cool things that the good folks that come on this show are doing. So great place to just kind of continue learning. Um, Also, we are always looking for new stories from and new products and new programs and all the really cool stuff happening in the innovation space and healthcare. So if you're a founder, you represent a company, you've got something really cool that you're working on, we want to talk to you. And we also want the human stories that help kind of, tie the room together. Um, got to drop a Lebowski
That's a
in there.
nice rug.
Thank you. Um, and we want to hear from you. We want to bring you on the show. We can't do this without the human stories. So shoot us an email at healthcareuprising@gmail.com and reach out and we'll get you scheduled. So with that, I think this is our last dose of healthcare for today.
It's about as much as I can take today.
Yeah, I don't know. So folks, keep looking for the good in the world because sometimes it is where you least expect it.
This has been a Shut Up production.